Welcome to a fourth episode of Same Page. My name is Sarah Simajust, and I'm with my lovely husband,
Linal Simajust.
And today, where are we?
This is Major Hills Park, and this park is very significant for both of us because this is the park where I took Sarah on her birthday and also when I proposed to her.
Yes. 4 years ago.
4 years ago, almost 4 years ago.
Yes, almost 4 years ago. So it's special to us. We love coming here. It brings back good memories, and yeah, it's a beautiful day. So why not?
Why not?
Today we're talking about. What are we talking about?
We are talking about things to consider before you enter into a long-term relationship.
Yes. So before you take that plunge, before you get down on one knee and ask a person to marry you, there is definitely some things that you need to be sure about. You're not going to be sure about a lot of things, but there's a few things you kind of need to ask and discuss about before you enter that marriage or that commitment. So we'll dive into that.
Yes, we will.
So one thing that we thought it would be very important to discuss is finances. In general, finances, depending on how you handle your finances, or if you have debts, or how much money you make, etc. For some people, that is the deal breaker, and there's no shame in admitting that, but it's definitely a discussion that needs to be had, because you need to know what you're entering, what type of relationship you're going to enter in. So what kind of things that you would discuss with your partner?
Some of the common things that you want to discuss is who's going to take care of all the major bills, how you guys going to divvy up the bills, whether or not you guys are going to have either your own separate accounts or you guys going to have a common account, a joint account. So
there's definitely certain values and also habits that you've built, right? One individual might be used to saving and from the paycheck. The other individual might just be used to spending it all, yep. which is just a habit, right? But it is a discussion to be had.
What's really important when it comes to money is that you guys also are on the same page, and you guys are also trying to achieve a common goal, whether it's to buy a house together, whether it's to buy a car, or whether it's to even go on a trip.
Right, absolutely. And another thing to discuss and in length would probably be your debts. If any of the partners has debts, it is very important to reveal what kind of financial situation you are in, because if you get married and one person finds out that you have, a lot of student loans and that needs to be paid, but that kind of becomes the couple's debt.
Have a good evening, guys.
Bye.
Thanks.
A good evening. We just had a quick interruption, and it was kind of cool. These guys wanted to follow us, and we felt very. Did you hear them? We felt very popular. Yeah, they said they were going to follow us. So.
Yeah, but they're gone now. So we'll continue. Yes.
We were talking about debts. Debts can make or break a marriage. So prior to taking that plunge, you do need to let the person know and have the discussion about your financial situation. You need to know, everyone needs to be on the same page about who's in debt or whatnot, and know whether you're going to attack those debts and how.
Yes.
How are you going to pay it off? Are both partners going to help? Because even if you don't like it, one person's debt is the couple's debt. You can't really advance to purchase something if the person doesn't have good credit or debt, etc. So you need to figure out a way to get out of that if that's an issue, but definitely have that conversation prior to taking that plunge.
Exactly, and the main point that Sarah made was the fact that one person's debt becomes a couple's debt, and that's very important to realize.
Yes. What's something else that needs to be discussed?
Then another thing that needs to be assessed is whether or not you want to have kids or not.
Yes, at least for me. I don't know if that's for every couple. For us,
starting a family,
having kids, one way or the other would be a deal breaker. So I wanted to have kids.
Yeah, same with me. Like for me, like that was basically one of the main. Other than finding the right person and falling in love, one of the main reasons why I wanted to get married is to start a family.
Yes. So if you have that discussion after you've made that commitment, and it's a deal breaker for one
you,
partner
for
or the other,
yes.
as much as you're in love and as much as you want it to work, if you really want a family and the other person doesn't, then that could break the marriage.
Yes.
So make sure you talk about that extensively. And what do you think about people who change their minds once the marriage starts?
It's one of those things that happens quite often, unfortunately, and because as human beings we grow, we evolve. We may be in situations where especially like if you talk about us for a second, as far as like we're in a situation where most of our friends have kids, and sometimes when you see other people's kids, maybe that might deter you from having your own.
Whose kids have you seen?
I'm not saying I'm not calling out anybody's kids. Everyone's kids is lovely, but all I know, sometimes a person could get scared by I guess seeing the routine and
lack of sleep.
Yes, the lack of sleep is one that comes in, and also the arguments that come along with kids too. Because a lot of times when it comes to disciplining their kids, some parents have different discipline styles. Some people are more aggressive. Other people are kind of more passive, and that could lead to many discussions within a relationship.
Yeah. So you kind of have to figure out whether that's a deal breaker for you or not. But I think once it's established and you've extensively talked about it, and you both know where you stand in terms of starting a family with kids, then I feel that you kind of need to honor that.
Yeah, I would hope so.
Yes.
Absolutely, yeah. The next topic that you should discuss extensively is your faith.
Yeah, faith, I think, could be a deal breaker depending on your background, and that is definitely something that needs to be discussed, especially if you're really a faithful person and you're very much into your religion and your faith, and that's an important value for you. Then the couple needs to know what's going to happen after marriage, right?
Exactly.
So for example, if one person is Christian, the other person is Muslim, what's going to happen? The traditions might be very different. So will one person convert?
Yeah.
Will you continue practicing your faith separately during the marriage?
Yeah.
Or are you both going to kind of learn about each other's faith and somehow make it work? I don't know.
Exactly.
I don't know.
And then depending on what you guys decide, and then if you add another dynamic to that equation, like once you start having kids, will the children have both religions, or will they mostly have one? Will they have the options to even choose a religion, like when they're older enough to understand what's really going on?
Yes. So it is.
It's kind of tricky.
It is very tricky.
Yeah.
But I think the most important thing, no matter what it is, no matter what the topic, as long as it is discussed,
yes,
you're honest about it, you come to a decision together.
Yes.
You won't always agree on everything, but it is a working process. And as long as the other person is really willing to talk about it, because some people are like, no, this is what it is, and if you don't do this, then I'm out. Then I think if both parties are willing to talk, have an open discussion
yes,
about the topics that we just presented, then I think it's a very good start, as long as you really dive into it prior to taking that plunge.
Yes, and the last thing that we want to end this vlog on is that when it comes to settling down with a person and taking that plunge with that person, a lot of people want to focus on all the positive characteristics, all the all the good things that your partner has to offer. The good things tend to stay good, but the trick is, or the secret is, this is a little pearl of wisdom that my father taught me, is to focus on the bad characteristics.
What do you mean focus on the bad characteristics?
I mean that these characteristics tend to be your partner's flaws, and you need to be comfortable with the fact that maybe your partner, those flaws will never change.
Okay.
And so if you can honestly live with those flaws, and they're not a deal breaker for you, then you can see yourself maybe continue that relationship. Because at the end of the day, you may hope that that your partner will eventually either get rid of those characteristics, change and evolve, but there's also a large chance that most likely those flaws will always be there. So
Yes.
you need to have a comfort level to live with those flaws.
Yes, and you can't go into a relationship or the marriage hoping the person is gonna change that.
Yes.
If the person does change that along the way, great, but it is a choice that that person has to make. You can't expect that from them, and you have to be able, like Leonard said, to be able to live with that if that doesn't change. So ask yourself, can I live with this person who doesn't want to achieve certain goals that I have in mind? Can I live with this person who wants to have a career in such and such when I don't agree with that, etc., etc. There are so many examples.
Absolutely.
But if you can live with the bad things or the bad characteristics, then I think you're on your way to hopefully a good relationship
Exactly.
for a long term.
So that wraps up our 4th episode, where we discuss things to consider before you enter a long-term relationship.
Definitely talk about finances, very important.
Yes, talk about whether or not you want to start a family and kids.
Have kids. Talk about your faith and how you're going to deal with that if you come from a different background or different religions.
Exactly. And finally, you want to make sure that you can live with the person's faults.
Absolutely. Make sure you subscribe, like, comment, let us know what else you want us to talk about, and hopefully next week will be a juicy one.
Hopefully. Until next time.
Yes, till next time. Thank you for watching.
Bye.